evening and a very warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. Government announces its plan of building 1,500 housing units. Sri Lanka secures satisfactory level at the Human Capital Index. News in detail. The government announces that 1,500 housing units are planned to be built, covering Varalavatta, Mihidupura, Parangyakumbura, Dahayagama, Mattegoda, Soisapura and Tangal areas to coincide with the World Habitat Day, which falls on October 5th. It is further noted state banks will set up a lending scheme to buy houses at an annual interest rate of 6.25% with a maturity of 30 years. Accordingly, a meeting on the future plans of the State Ministry of Rural Home Construction and Building Materials Industry Promotion, chaired by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was held at the Presidential Secretariat yesterday. President Rajapaksa highlighted that housing shortage of urban, rural and estate people should be addressed in a manner that would improve their living standards. In the meantime, State Minister Indika Anuruddha stated that government is already constructing 14,022 houses for low-income earners at the Grama-Niladhari level and that under these projects it is expected to construct 70,100 houses at the end of next 5 years. Head of the Presidential Task Force on Economic Revival, Basil Rajapaksa, noting that more than 526,000 families in the country do not have sanitation facilities, called for speeding up the provision of such facilities. Moreover, President instructed officials to utilize all public and private sector institutions under the Ministry of Urban Development and Housing and Construction. Thus, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa raised the voice over the slow pace of activity in both the public and private sectors.
පාරවල් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් හදනවා, බ්‍රිජස් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් හදනවා, ගෙවල් දැන් හදනවා, වෝටර් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට්ස් තියෙනවා, වැව් හදනවා. ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර් එක උනත් ක්වොලිටි එක නැහැනේ. වැඩක් බාර දුන්නම හැමදාම යන අර පාර දැන් මාස කීයක්ද? ඒක පොඩ්ඩක්වත් හදන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් එහෙම වුණාම දැන් ඒක ගවර්න්මන්ට් නෙමෙයි, කොන්ට්‍රැක්ටර්ස්ලා ඔක්කොම ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර් එකට දීලා තියෙන්නේ. හැබැයි වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. මේක තමයි මේ අපේ මුළු රටේම තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ, වැඩ නොකිරීම. ප්‍රයිවට් සෙක්ටර් එක වේවා, ගවර්න්මන්ට් සෙක්ටර් එක වේවා කරන්නේ නැහැ වැඩ. දැන් මේ කොළඹ උනත් බැලුවම විශාල බිල්ඩින් ටිකක් තියෙනවා, වැඩ නම් යන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් මේවා පුෂ් කරවන්න වෙනවා. හැදෙන්න තියෙන බිල්ඩින්ස් ටික හදන්න ඉක්මනට.
The latest report by the World Bank on Human Capital Index suggests that the COVID-19 pandemic's impact would translate into considerable monetary losses in the future. Issuing the World Bank Group's 2020 Human Capital Index, it suggests that the economic impact of the pandemic has been particularly deep for women and for the most disadvantaged families, leaving many vulnerable to food insecurity and poverty. The Human Capital Index, which is also known as HCI, is an international metric that benchmarks key components of human capital across countries. The measuring of the human capital can highlight how current health and education outcomes would shape the productivity of the next generation of workers. The HCI was launched in 2018 as part of the Human Capital Project as a global effort to accelerate progress towards a world where all children can achieve their full potential. The 2020 Human Capital Index includes health and education data up to March 2020 for 174 countries, with an addition of 17 new countries to the index relative to the 2018 edition. Accordingly, the report covers 98% of the world population, providing a pre-pandemic baseline on the health and education status of the children. The report says that the human capital outcomes progressed in almost all countries by about 4% on average during the said period. Globally, the HCI 2020 shows that before the pandemic struck, a child could expect to attain an average of 56% of her potential productivity as a future worker. For instance, a child born in low-income country could expect to be 37% as productive as if she had full education and full health. For a child born in high-income country, this figure is 70%. Accordingly, Sri Lanka satisfactorily shows the productive rate as 60%. First Capital Holdings states that the trading in stock markets saw a major upsurge during this week as the index rose over 200 points in all days. Moreover, the investment institution First Capital emphasizes that the highest gain in recent months was witnessed yesterday, surpassing 73 points.
This week, we saw a major upsurge in the market as the index climbed over 200 points with a continuous upsurge on all the days. On Monday, the market started off slightly slower. However, as the week progressed, the aggressiveness of investors significantly increased as we saw the highest gain in recent months on Thursday, with the market surging by 73 points. Now the market has reached almost an 8-month high as the index has exceeded 5,700 points. Turnover levels have significantly increased, and now over the last 2 to 3 days we've seen turnover levels over 3 billion rupees, with the number of trades exceeding 20,000 trades. So with that, we can see that there's heavy retail activity in the market with strong buying interest coming from the retail community. However, there is buying interest also involved in by high net worth individuals and institutional activities as well.
Bringing the forecast for the coming week, First Capital Holdings highlights that the positive momentum of the market will continue in the coming week with the reduced interest rates. On a significant note, Head of Research of First Capital, Dimantamathi, explained that the buying interest will be shifted towards the blue chip counters from the mid to small cap counters.
In the upcoming week, we feel that the positive sentiment that we came along over the last week is likely to continue in the upcoming week as well. The very low interest rate environment is significantly making inroads into the equity market, with fund flow significantly moving towards the equity market. We can see more and more retail activity coming into the market, and with that, strong buying interest is emerging from the local segment. However, almost over the last few weeks, we've mostly seen mid to small cap counters gaining activity. However, we believe that there is likely to be a small shift from that approach towards the blue chip counters. So we feel that now buying interest is likely to come into the blue chip counters as they seem to be significantly undervalued now comparatively. However, on the foreign front, we feel that the net outflow that has been there on a continuous basis throughout the year is likely to continue this week as well.
Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. State Minister of Finance, Capital Markets and Public Enterprise Reforms Ajit Nivad Cabral stresses that the Colombo Stock Exchange market capitalization should be increased up to $60 billion in the next 5 years in order to create capacity to provide funding for both public and private sectors. State Minister Cabral made these observations at the yesterday's launch of the digitalization of all operations of the Colombo Stock Exchange initiated to create convenience and enhanced market accessibility for all Sri Lankans.
So you need to focus on several areas and aspects of this market. A, you got to make sure that the number of shares that you have is expanded regularly. I have been around long enough to know that the number of companies that have been traded in this wonderful stock exchange has remained almost stagnant for so many years. Every time when someone asks how many companies are there in the stock exchange, we say 200 something. Now this 200 something has been the number for the last 30 years, I think. So the next 5 years, we would like to see that number being spoken of as 500 something. I think you can do that. If you are with a $12.5 billion market cap, I don't think you can do that. So set your sights high. Set your sights at a $60 billion, if I may suggest, for the next 5 years. Then you will have a capacity which can provide funding not only to the government sector, but to the private sector who can also be then making sure that the President's goals of prosperity will be achieved.
In the meantime, highlighting that Sri Lanka can no longer sustain economic development at the expense of foreign debt, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Chintaka Mende, stresses that Colombo Stock Exchange is the best place to raise capital to fund the ambitious development projects of the government.
What we need now is increase the use of digital technology and intensify the use of technology for that matter. We need to invest on our children. We need to inculcate the habit of investing in capital market. For that matter, SCC wants to include capital market as a subject when it comes to school curriculum. When it comes to economic development, we can no longer depend on the foreign loans. Let me tell you, this is the place where you can raise funds for your ambitious development projects. So don't look elsewhere. This is the place where we can fund the development projects.
And to this end, Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman, President's Council, Viraj Dayaratna calls upon both local and foreign investors to invest in the Colombo Stock Exchange to increase the depth and breadth of the market and to take the market to the next level, to that of an emerging market in the near future.
We are aware that it is our bounden duty to ensure that we facilitate the development of the market, and as such, we are determined to create a balance between regulation and development of the market. We assure you that we will play a proactive role in the development of the stock market and partner all stakeholders in taking our market to the next level, to that of an emerging market in the not too distant future. Let me conclude by making use of this opportunity to appeal to the large companies in Sri Lanka who have not yet listed. Please come forward and list your companies in the Colombo Stock Exchange. We need to increase the depth and breadth of the market. Your participation will ensure that. To the SMEs and startups, it is your turn as well. We have relaxed the listing requirements, and there is huge potential to raise the much needed capital in the capital market. And to the investors, both local and foreign, come and invest. The valuations are great.
Stay tuned for stock updates. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The all-share price index gained 62.01 points to close at 5,720.67, and the S&P SL20 gained 32.33 points to close at 2,512.40. The turnover was 3.5 billion rupees and over 182 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you on Sunday with the best roundup at 7 p.m. Until then, take care and good night.